Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video, we are obviously doing a how-to video, and I'm going to talk about how to be a good mom. And it may seem like a weird question. I think there's people out there who actually worry about it or wonder or question it themselves. I just thought one day, I was like, maybe I should just make this video so that I can maybe help somebody out, because I'm pretty sure that somebody has asked themselves this question. And I have actually known other women who are about to be mothers and they have concerns or fears and they feel like they're not going to be a good mom. I'm not a perfect mother, I just want to make that clear, but I have learned, obviously I have been a mom for almost 10 years. I have learned a lot of things, and I've learned these things from my experience as a mother, but also of my childhood and, you know, from what I saw growing up from my mother or like other mothers. It's not only based on experience, it's also based on research and reading, and I've done like that whole thing. This video is not only for first-time mothers or pregnant mothers, it's also for any mother. So whether you're at the beginning of your journey or maybe you're dealing with like teenagers, I think my tips can help you out. So I do have my phone here for notes. I'm not going in any order. The first tip is reflect on your past. But whether you realize it or not, a lot of the things we do has to do with our childhood and how it shaped us, whether you see it or not or believe it or not. So before we can really go into this journey about, you know, being a good parent, you have to go back into your own journey and think about your past and any traumas you went through in order to be able to reflect on how it might have shaped you, the person you are now and the parent you are now. So think back to any pains and how it might have made you feel, any mistakes that you feel like your parents might have made. And I'm not saying this for you to like go and make them feel guilty, but it's just so you can learn from it. I feel like a lot of the things that shaped me as a mom is just learning from seeing my own mom, how I felt, and I just told myself that I would not let my kids feel that way and I would do better so that they can feel different and better. Going back into our past and our traumas and our childhood can help us figure out what our triggers are and why we may react a certain way. So doing this and backtracking, it does take a lot of effort sometimes, because you don't really realize how a lot of these experiences affected us and are still like subconsciously hurting us, and we don't even realize it because, like I said, it's in our subconscious. You kind of push it away, but it's still there. It's something that is causing triggers or behaviors in yourself that can be reflecting on yourself as a parent and the way you treat your children. A book that helped me, and I didn't start reading this book till maybe I had already my second baby, is this book called Connection Parenting by Pam Leo. And this one is a really good book because it really opens up your eyes, and it's like, oh, it gives you a lot of those moments where you're like, oh, that's why I do this, or that's why I react like this. And it's a really cool book because it's kind of like a journal within itself. I have like a lot of highlighted things on here, but there's also like reflection. Like I think at the end it gives you like practical tips. Like it actually tells you like, say, instead of saying this, say this. Instead of telling your child this, tell them this. I really like this book. This one really stuck with me. It's been like 7 years since I've read it. So this moves us to our next tip, which is connection. Parent through connection. That's why it's called connection parenting. Parenting through connection instead of coercion. Through love instead of fear. I don't know, I've never been able to say that word properly. Parent through connection. It's so easy. You are having trouble with your teenager, it's most likely because you're not connected to them, because you're just yelling at them, nagging at them, telling them what to do, telling them what they're doing wrong. But like, have you really sat down and looked at them in the eyes and like made them feel like important and loved and heard? Obviously we're jumping to like the teenager stage, which I'm not in that stage yet, but I have learned about those things through this book. And also my older daughter is getting a little bit older, and I need to make more of an effort to connect with her as she's getting older, because, you know, the younger they are, the more they need help from you, and the more older and independent they become, the less you're kind of like, you know, involved in their like daily little tasks, and that can cause like a lack of connection if you're not like putting an effort into it. And it has been shown that when you parent through connection, you get way better results than if you parent through fear. It's just more love, more trust, more confidence when you parent through love. Children are naturally born full of love, but as they get older, that is kind of stripped from them, that whole like innocence, naturally loving, because of their peers, their parents, the people around them, their environment causes them to kind of lose that. So I have Aurora here, don't mind her. So it's important to lead with love and be respectful of our children. And a good example of this is, would you talk to your coworker or a friend or a colleague the way that you talk to your children? Like, would you say like, hurry up and get in the car, we're running late. Why are you walking so slow? Or sorry, why are you so moody? Or why are you like, would you talk to your boss that way? Like, if you wouldn't talk to your boss in that way, then why the heck would you talk to your children in that way? Obviously, I know that you're closer to your children. You still want to have that respect for them because they're children. They're not a boss, a grown person, a grown colleague. They're children, and they need to be respected and loved so that they can grow up and not have issues. Because a lot of people think that you shouldn't spoil your kids because then it creates like a dependent people. But it actually does the opposite. When you give your child love and connect with them, they feel respected, they feel loved, they feel important, their self-esteem goes up. And this is the age when they're babies up until, you know, they're adults. You should be giving them that love, that respect, and that really fills up their confidence and self-esteem because they feel like, oh, I'm worthy, like I'm being treated like nicely, like so I deserve that kind of respect, I deserve that kind. So that way when they're adults, they don't take disrespect from anybody, they don't disrespect themselves, they're confident, they have high self-esteem so that they can lead better lives. And it actually in turn makes people more independent when you do that for them, because when babies are babies and kids are kids, they need the love, they need the attention, they need this to be spoiled with love. Obviously spoiling a child with like material things and so they can stop nagging is definitely not what we're talking about here. We're talking about just like being attentive to your children and loving them and respecting them so that they can grow up to be good people in this society. Parents really need to see that you are raising the future, so you need to like understand how you're shaping your children to be better adults, better humans, better members of the society so that we can contribute and live in a better world. You kind of have to see it that way. Not only do you have to raise good humans, but also for themselves. You want them to be happy. It's just really important for you to be respectful of your children because they're your children. Like, that's like the closest you can be with anybody. So am I boring? So if you're a new parent, just take the time to be mindful about the way we're speaking to our children. Make eye contact, don't belittle them, engage with them, and be interested in the things that they're doing, the things that they show you. Next tip is be responsive, and this begins in infancy. So you need to be responsive of your baby. You need to listen to their cries, listen to their cues. Yes, mothering can sometimes be hard with the baby crying. You can't figure out what they need. They're taking, you know, but you need to be responsive of your babies. Like, there's a reason why they cry. There's a reason why they were made the way they are made, and they need to be attended. The cry it out method and self-soothing. I know parents are trying to teach them independence, but this is not the time to do that. This is the time when you have to be responsive, and it goes against nature when you leave a baby to self-soothe, because they kind of go into this survival mode where they shut down in a way. Like, they shut down subconsciously, emotionally, and naturally a baby cries and needs to feel loved. Because think about it, you have to think about it, we're still animals by nature. So think about back in the day when we weren't safe, you know, when it wasn't as easy to have a safe home. It was dangerous to leave a baby unattended, and they're obviously going to cry because that's their way of saying that they need something, they need to be loved, they need to feel safe. Babies don't feel safe if they're left alone, if they're being unresponded to. So you have to think about that. That's what drives my decisions making since like the beginning. It's like, naturally what needs to happen, naturally what are we supposed to do, naturally why. Like, how would our ancestors have responded to something like this? Like, you have to think about biologically why things are done the way they are, and there's a reason for it. Babies are not meant to be left alone to self-soothe. That's just like goes against survival, and it goes against nature. And this goes back to what I said earlier, that when you respond to a child's cries, tantrums, achievements, you are not spoiling them. You have to nurse now, but the show must go on, because if not, I have no other time to do this. The next one is be empathetic, which kind of just ties in with everything I've been saying. Put yourself in their shoes. Think about how it would make you feel. Go back to your childhood and think about how certain things made you feel. Try to be understanding. Like, they're children. They're not evil. They're not your enemy. They're literally your children. They were born, you know, full of love. You know, so try to remember that, why they may be reacting a certain way or why they may be tantruming. The next one is wait to introduce technology. This one's kind of a tough one because I know we live in this whole tech world nowadays, and I use technology a lot. My children do as well. I know a lot of mothers now are like more comfortable with not feeling made guilty for letting their children watch TV all day. But this is like, I'm not really gonna go into that part. I'm just like saying wait a little bit longer to introduce it, because there's a type of stimulation that we as humans receive when we're watching TV. It like releases dopamine in our brain. That release of dopamine is something that you don't really get from normal everyday life. It becomes addicting because it's hard to be stimulated in the way that TV is stimulating, because TV is not natural. So when you step back into reality, it just can become worse and the issue can be bigger. It can lead to addictions later on in life. This can be backed up by a psychologist, or yeah, he's a psychologist, I believe. His name is Gabor Mate, and this is something that I've learned from him, and I can link his stuff down below. Like I said, I'm not saying do not introduce technology, because that's the world we live in, so they have to learn technology regardless whether you like it or not. There's so much that they can learn from their environment. Like there's so much that they can learn from you and speaking to other adults and interacting with humans. So a good example I like to give, that I've given before, is think about like if you were to walk into the woods and you would see like 2 reindeer sitting down and watching a screen and just staring at the TV. Wouldn't that be kind of creepy? You're just seeing animals just staring at the TV for like hours. That's kind of weird, right? It's like they're being hypnotized. And that's kind of the same thing. Like humans were never naturally like made like to watch TV. It's not a natural thing. Deer need to be running around learning where to hunt for food, for where to find their berries, and the little ones learn from the older ones. So that's the same thing with babies. Humans, they need to interact with other adults and other humans. Once they start with technology, it's never going to stop, and it's only going to get more and more the older they get. So just try to delay it as long as possible, because at the very beginning especially, it's important for you to be the main interaction in a child's life, or the main thing that a child should interact with. The next tip is prioritize. So we do live in a busy time. We just want to overwhelm our schedules, our children's schedules, with sports and events and theme parks and whatever it is. You know, if you're a mother, you might be going to school, you might work, you might volunteer, whatever it is, and our schedules can become very overwhelming, which can make it really hard to be a good parent when you're overwhelmed. Like it's not easy to be a good mom when you're stressed out from all the driving, the traffic, rushing to get your children here and get your children there. I would say prioritize, like what is most important. Think about in your schedule, like do you really need to do this? Do you really need to do that? Like is that really that important, or is it more important for you to just hang out with your kid and keep things simple? Like kids don't really need much. As long as they have interaction, then it's fine. Like it's okay for them to get bored, and then their creative brain steps in and they become creative, then opposed to like you're always stimulating them with something and then they don't even know how to think or act without like this type of busy schedule and stimulation. I would advise to prioritize. So for me, I'm a mother and a homemaker and a wife. I will prioritize my family first, and then I'll see like if I can squeeze in other things that won't cause us to like go off track too much and stress me out or stress my husband out. I do content creation, and that's the reason why I still haven't found that sweet spot where like I can balance it perfectly, because I make sure that my family is a priority. So that's the reason why sometimes I can go a little bit longer with posting videos, because I prioritize. Because like I said, we live in a busy time where like there's a lot of things going on, and it's stressful for mothers. So that's why I say that, you know, mothers should have it easier on themselves, because they have a very important job. And that leads to my next tip, which is have a support system. We don't really live around our tribes and our villages like people did back in the day. It is very important to have a support system. Naturally, women are more into being social with other women and children. That's so much easier when you have a support system of other mothers around you, or sisters, cousins, whatever it is, because you don't feel overwhelmed to have to be there for your child and do everything alone. Children, when they grow up in a tribe, their needs are met much easier, because it's not like one mother like having to meet everybody's needs. Like if there's an aunt around or like a friend, and one of the children needs something, she can easily be like, oh, here you go, I can help you. Like for example, we're a military family. We haven't always been a military family, but it was a big change for us because we lived around everyone in our family, both sides of our family. So it was nice to always have like people around to help, people to like kind of entertain each other and just like socialize with each other. The kids had their cousins, And then now that we're living in a different state as a military family, that's why they say like build your tribe, have a support system. Times are different. It would be easier. You wouldn't have to build a support system because people used to live in more generational homes and it was easier to, you know, have that support already. But now we kind of have to work to have it. If you're the stay-at-home mother and your husband is the breadwinner, then, you know, he's out doing his job and he has to be out and do his thing. So there's only so much that your husband can do because he's out working all day. That's why I say, like, you want a support system of like people that are doing the same thing as you, like other mothers. Did you just stop me? So the reason why I wanted to mention the build your support system tip after the prioritize tip that I just mentioned is because it is easier to prioritize and to not overwhelm yourself when you have a support system and to feel like you're not doing it all alone. Or a lot of stay-at-home mothers can become depressed because they feel so lonely. They feel like nobody understands them. They feel like they're trapped within their own home. But that really does have to do with the lack of support system, because if you have a neighbor who also has kids and she stays at home and you hang out with her, you guys help each other out, then you feel less alone. You feel like you have someone there to understand you. You have someone to socialize with, you know, working together with other mothers. Like naturally, that's what we like to do. I used to live with my in-laws and I used to have their support. And so I had to learn how to build a support system so that I don't go crazy, because I did have like a little bit of that when we lived in Italy. I was going through a little bit of anxiety because I just felt so alone. I felt worried. I felt fearful. I felt like, what would happen if like something happens to me at night and my kids are like in the other room and there's nobody else here, like no other family here. My husband is away on a training for weeks, and so it was just like getting to my head. And it's not that I have a problem, it's that I don't have a support system. And you can stay more sane and avoid things like that if you have a support system, because you, like I said, you won't feel so alone. And the last tip I'm going to give is affirmation. The more you repeat to yourself and affirm that you are a good mother, it will seriously reflect into your reality. In your subconscious, it might be built into you that you don't think you're a good mother. You might have always told yourself that you wouldn't be a good mother. But if you affirm that you are a good mother enough, your subconscious will pick it up and it will believe it and you will act on it. Stop making an excuse. Like subconsciously you might be making an excuse like, I'm a bad mother, so oh well, like that's what I do. But no, like you just have to affirm that you're a good mother. You're a beautiful person to your children's lives. You're an asset to the family. Affirmation can really go a long way, and I didn't understand it so much before, but it really does make a difference. If you've been told something negative, like you're a bad mother, and it's stuck in you, like you just have to keep affirming that you're a good mother. And when you think of, oh wait, but they said that this, or I've done this before, go back to saying, no, I am a good mother. I'm a good mother. And years ago, when I was, like I said, when I was in Italy and I was kind of going through things, I always felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I still have those moments sometimes, but it was much worse before. And I remember I would talk to my sister and I would tell her, like, I just feel like I'm not a good mother. I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel bad. I feel frustrated. I feel like I'm not like living in the moment. I'm constantly worrying about the next thing that I have to do. And it's just nonstop every single day, 24/7. And it's like I don't catch a break. And then I remember my sister telling me, just stop saying that you're not a good mother. Like start saying that you are a good mother. You need to understand that you're a good mother. You really are. Although I've always seemed on the outside like a good mother, people have always told me and complimented me in the way I parent, but inside I still didn't feel like I was good enough. And that all has to do with subconscious, with past, with experiences, with everything. So I finally got to the point where I believed that I was a good mother, and things became easier and things fell more into place, and I became more patient and more calm, and I stopped worrying so much, because worry was a big deal with me. I think that's my cue to go. Those were all my tips on how to be a good mom. But I hope that my tips helped you today. I will link the book down below if you want to check it out. I will link other resources that I can think of. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or if you disagreements or anything, please let me know down below. Please share to subscribe, because I'm going to have more of these how-to videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.